Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be ranking productivity habits by how efficient they are. Now, by efficiency, I mean how big of a return you get on your productivity for the amount of time or effort that you spend actually doing the habit. And so what that means is S tier is the most efficient, like the least amount of time or effort put in for the highest return on your productivity. And obviously E is just the opposite of that, the lowest return for how much time and effort you're putting in. So first up, and these are just in a completely random order in terms of what I'm actually doing, is diet. So generally with this, it can take a decent amount of time and effort to actually get consistent with your diet in the first place and get to a point where it is good consistently and not taking a lot of time and effort. But once you get to that point, it's very, very easy. And if you're eating the same thing every day, which is really useful for reducing decision fatigue, then it's even better for productivity. And so it's probably like an A once you get, it's probably, honestly, it's probably an S once you set it up, but because you have to set it up a bit, it's probably put it in A for now. Next one is this lovely image shows is eating the frog. And so basically this is just a term for doing the highest priority or most difficult task first thing. And if you don't know, the reason why that's called eating the frog is because if you were given an entire day to eat a frog, you'd probably just want to get it out of the way and do it first thing. And so with your biggest, ugliest frog task, the most difficult one, the one that's going to get you the highest returns, doing it first thing is generally seen to be the best strategy for that. And this is honestly like an S just straight away because it doesn't really take any extra time to do your hardest task first thing. You're still just working for the same amount of time, but the return is so good. Honestly, it's just S. It takes basically no extra time and gives you just an insane return on productivity. You're getting the thing that matters done first, so if the rest of the day kind of gets ruined, at least you got the highest priority thing done. You have the most energy for it, the most focus, the most mental bandwidth. You haven't made any decisions yet. It's just really, really, really good. Not much more to say though. Next is removing distractions. So, your phone might be a main distraction, but this is just generally removing any distraction because I don't want to have a separate one for every single possible distraction because they're kind of infinite. And I would say this is similar to like your diet where it takes a lot of time and effort to set up at the start, but then once you do it, it's really, really, really good. And honestly, I think that this is an S. It's even though it does take the time and effort at the start, removing distractions is just so good for your productivity long term. Like if you're getting distracted while you're trying to do deep work long term, it just doesn't work. You're not going to make progress really. You're not going to be able to focus. You're not going to be able to do deep work or get into flow state. So the time investment at the start of setting things up and putting effort into getting consistent with using your phone less, gaming less, scrolling less, being in an environment where you can actually focus is 100% worth it. So that's another S. Next is reading. So this is interesting because reading itself is sort of more for learning than productivity. Like it helps with productivity because you're doing something that's somewhat low stimulation. Maybe you're reading books about productivity to improve your knowledge, or you're reading about the thing you're trying to do. But honestly, this is pretty bad for the time you put in. Let's say you're reading like an hour a day. The impact on your productivity, if you're really just trying to get stuff done and take action, it's honestly not good at all. It's kind of like a D. Um, like it's still really good for your productivity. Like this, everything on this tail list is still going to be good for your productivity. But it's honestly like a D because what I found for myself is, a while ago, I built up to reading for about 2 hours per day, and it feels really productive, but it's not actually that productive. And once I switched to reading a lot less, like an hour a day, even less, now I'm only reading for 15 minutes a day. I've made so much more progress because reading does just take a lot of time if you want to build it up to that level. And it's actually a better use of your time for your productivity to just take action or get more sleep, those kinds of things. And so 1 hour of sleep or 1 hour of work are generally higher leverage than 1 hour of reading. I still think it can be very useful to have as a habit, even if you're not doing that much, because like I said, it can be useful for building the skill of being a little bit bored or just doing something that is a bit lower stimulation for a bit. So it's a good way to rest. And it's obviously still good for your productivity, just not as good as actually doing the work. So that's why it's a D. Next is having a routine. So this, like some of the other ones, is takes a bit of time to set up, takes a bit of time to sort of get consistent with. But once you have it set up, it's honestly just insane. You don't really need to worry about it after that point. You make some small changes every now and then. So I'd say this is probably an A, because obviously your routine, we're gonna come on to daily planning later. But your routine kind of, it's not an S because it doesn't really apply to every single day. It's more just the general guidelines, but not the specific tasks. So that's why it isn't really an S, but definitely extremely good once you set it up. Having that structure is so good for your productivity. All right. Next are these two habits of meditation and staring at a wall or doing nothing. They're both really good for focus and kind of like I was saying with reading, help with doing something that's a bit boring or lower stimulation to then make deep work feel more stimulating, but to an even more extreme extent. But personally, what I've found is that meditation, staring at a wall, they're useful. But if you're able to just do the work instead, then they're lower leverage. And the reason they are actually useful is because a lot of the time, if you're procrastinating and you can't really do the work or it feels really, really boring, doing these helps you get back on track with that. But once you can kind of just do the work anyway, or if you don't need these for that, then they become a bit worse. But still really, really good for focus. And right now, I'm not actually doing either consistently because I've found that for me, just doing more work seems to be fine. But at certain points, I've found meditation or staring at a wall really useful, or even staring at a specific object. That can help as well to train the focus, train your focus, train the skill of focus in terms of looking at a specific thing and looking at all the details of it. So I'd put these in B. Obviously, like preference about which one you actually find better. For some people, meditation's good. For some people, staring at a wall. For some people, going on a walk even. It is useful to have one of these habits, even if it's not every single day, just when you need it, when you feel like you're going to procrastinate, when deep work just feels really boring, you need a bit of a reset. They can be very, very useful. Next is habit tracking. So I personally tracked my habits every single day for about 2.5 years now. And obviously those have changed over time and I've used different methods for tracking. And it does take quite a bit of time. Like every day, let's say if you want to track your habits and some other metrics and your tasks and everything like that, takes maybe 10 15 minutes even, which is sort of on the high end, but let's just say it's 15 minutes a day. That is, or even just let's just say 10 minutes a day, keep it simple, 70 minutes a week. If we just say a bit lower, an hour a week, that's quite a bit of time over like a year, 52 hours. It's taking a decent amount of time. It's like a week worth of time that you could be working over a year, like a bit over a work week of time over a year, which is a decent amount of time, of course. And in that sense, it's not actually that efficient because really the return you're getting from this is that you get to measure your productivity over time. And so you can see whether it's increasing or not, make changes from that. But it just isn't that efficient in terms of the time you put into the return you get out. It's very, very good as a habit, so 100% do it. But compared to, let's say, like eating the frog, doing your hardest task first thing, it's just a bit lower. And I would say that tracking your habits is less important than, let's say, like having a routine, having that structure, or, you know, having a good diet. Because if you have like an absolutely horrible diet, but you're tracking your habits, going to be quite hard to focus and be productive. If you're not tracking your habits, sorry, but you have a really, really good diet, it's going to be better. And so I'll put this in B tier. I'm not really ordering the tiers themselves, but I would say this is definitely higher than staring at a wall of meditation, for sure. Maybe even low A tier if you want to put it there. As a habit in general, like if we're not looking at efficiency, very, very good, probably S tier, but just because it is in terms of efficiency, this video, then it's a bit low. Next is daily planning or planning tomorrow today. This is probably one of the most impactful and highest leverage habits that I've ever built. And so for that reason, I'm probably going to put it in S tier. It does take a bit of time, let's say 10, 15 minutes a day, but you save so much more than 10 or 15 minutes the next day because you're clear on exactly what to do when you're doing it, sometimes why it's important, sometimes how you're going to do it. You get to check things off throughout the day. You're tracking things like improvements if you want to and how many times you get distracted, all of that kind of stuff. It's so useful to do that because having clarity on exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, everything like that, and then looking at how you're going to improve for the next day, sort of reflecting a bit in your daily plan, it reduces procrastination so much, it increases productivity so much. So the time that you're saving by doing this is so much higher than the time you're putting in. So it's just insanely good in terms of efficiency. Definitely an S. Next habit is exercise. So this is kind of similar to reading in a sense where it's a good habit and it helps improve your life, for sure. But then directly in terms of productivity, it isn't that efficient in terms of the time you're putting in. Because let's say you're, working out or like on a run or doing some kind of exercise for an hour a day. If you look just at productivity, it's not helping that much. Obviously, for a lot of people, when you do exercise, then when you come back to work, it feels easier. You're able to focus better. You have more energy sometimes. So I definitely see that that can be useful, but it can also just make you feel quite tired. And so I think it's probably in the same tier as reading. Maybe maybe C tier, but we'll put it in D for now because if you're looking just at productivity, actually doing the work is better, obviously. And so it's just a lot of time to be putting in to not really get that much of a direct result on your productivity. Of course, for like your health, or probably productivity more long term in like the macro sense of actually feeling like a functioning human being, it's definitely good. All right, next is journaling. So this is similar to reading and exercise a bit where it's useful. It's another one of those habits that is quite good for reflecting, but it's still a lot of time to be putting in where you're sort of not doing the work and not directly preparing for the work. However, I would say it's in C tier. It's better than reading or exercise because it's really useful to journal about the work you're doing, what you're actually working on, whether it matters, whether you're as focused as you can be, how you can improve, for tomorrow, all those kinds of things, reflecting on how you can actually improve your productivity in other areas. And because of that, it is actually quite useful. Maybe even a B tier. Um, I'm actually going to put it in B because I think it's kind of on par with habit tracking in the sense where it's really good long term, even though it does take a bit of time. So yeah, definitely useful. But if you're spending like an hour a day journaling, then it sort of is a bit less useful. There is a bit of nuance in this. It kind of depends. But like for me, if I'm spending 5 minutes, 10 minutes journaling, reflecting on the day, seeing how I can improve, what I'm actually focusing on, it helps sort of realign you with your priorities and make sure you're making progress on the things that actually matter long term instead of just like feeling busy or even just feeling productive because feeling productive and being productive aren't actually the same thing. All right, the next one is cold showers. I would say that this is honestly really good for productivity. For me, one of the habits I've been doing for the longest amount of time out of any of the habits I'm doing, about 2 years every single day, which is quite a while. And so I would say this is an S. Let's say you're having like a 1 minute cold shower up to even like a 5 minute cold shower in the morning. The returns on your focus, on your energy, on your alertness from just that are very high. So definitely an S tier. But for some people, it kind of doesn't work as well. So like with all of these, this is very subjective. This is just my tier list of what I think works best for me and how much time I'm actually spending on these. And so this is going to look a lot different for quite a few people. So if you actually completely disagree with me on any of these, let me know in the comments. And if you actually want help getting really consistent with any of these habits and really improving your productivity so you can make more progress in business or towards your other goals, then there's a link in the description to join my free community where you can get help there. And then actually another link below that if you want to book a call and get some of my help, one-on-one. Of course, completely no pressure at all. If you don't want to do any of those right now, that is fine. Have a great rest of your day.